And we are live. I'll go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the City Council for August 5th, 2024. First order of business will be invocation and pledge of allegiance, which will be led by Councilmember Gardner.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Lord, and we're thankful for the ability that we have to come together as a city tonight, and we thank you for giving us this opportunity to come and represent the citizens of Maumelle, Lord. And we just ask for wisdom in all the things that we do, the decisions that we make, the topics that we discuss. We just pray that everything that we can do will ultimately serve you, Father, and be of benefit to this community. Thank you, Lord, for giving us this great place that we have to live in and to enjoy. And we're especially thankful for all those that serve our city each and every day, God, and the wonderful job that they do of making this such a great place to live. We just ask for your protection on all those that serve us in this city and that take care of all of our police and fire and EMS and all those people that work to keep us safe each and every day. God, help us to be servants of yours and to look at how we can make other people's lives better by serving them each and every day. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. We will move on to approval of the minutes. You all received a copy of the July 15th regular meeting minutes. If there are no additions or edits, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the minutes.
So moved.
I've got a motion and a second to adopt the minutes from July 15th, 2024. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. I have lost video. Hang on a second. There we go. The next order of business, I don't have any public comment cards, so we'll move on to department reports. Fire Chief Buford, come on down. We've got props. I assured him that he had to cap the time somewhere less than 30 minutes.
I will try to do my best. I do like to talk, so I do appreciate the opportunity. Chief Bo Buford, 2000 Murphy Drive. I do want to go through some of the highlights with the fire department. So it's been a while since we talked, probably budget, since I had everybody's full attention. So just a quick little thing of what I'm going to go over, where we are with capital projects, some training, talk about training facility a little bit, what we've done so far in the year as far as responses, software grants, personnel mutual aid. This will go faster than what that looks, so I promise you. So just to where we are with capital projects, so the City Council and the Mayor was gracious enough to give us some funding for capital projects. The first one was the e-tools. We've received the e-tools, we've trained on them, and they're in service on Engine 1 and Engine 2. We've already used them a few times. It already has proven beneficial. What normally would take probably 10 to 15 minutes to set up, we can grab the extrication tool, go straight to the accident, and we can start popping doors, cutting things. And so at least 2 motor vehicle accidents that we've used it on have made a difference. So that has been very, very helpful to us. And so we still have the other stuff on the truck, but we're probably not going to grab it anymore because it takes too long to set up. We did a cabinet project. The fire station, the central fire station, had cabinets that were falling down, that were in really bad shape. We were able to finish that out, and a big help from Keith Villa and the Public Works crew. They came over. They saved a lot of money by doing some of the work in-house. Firemen make great laborers, so whatever he said, pick this and move it over here, we did that. So that's about 90% complete. I think we have a couple little things we're going to finish up on. I'll bring you some pictures. The next thing is the cardiac monitor, and that's one thing I did want to show. So we were looking to try to get the most advanced systems and things that we could so that we'd have the best possible care for the citizens. And one of the things that we got was a new cardiac monitor. And in particular, this has a feature we're going to show you that we're the only ones that have it. We're the only ones so far that have it in Central Arkansas. Now, I'm sure as more people order new ones, they're going to get it too. But I'm going to show you why this is kind of a game-changing thing for us. When you do CPR on somebody, or if you have somebody that's not breathing, a lot of times we use what we call a bag valve mask device, sometimes commonly referred to as ambu bag. And so if we're doing advanced airways and things like that, we would breathe for the person. Well, a lot of times, even when I started 30 years ago, we would put too much air in somebody's lungs. And when you put too much air in, it goes somewhere else also. It also goes into the esophagus. And when it goes into the esophagus, it causes the stomach to swell, and you can have a bad outcome. And so one of the things that EMS has struggled with for years is how much air do you put into somebody's body to hit the right amount. And so what this machine does, it shows us exactly the right amount of air that we're putting in. So if you see the circle, if I squeeze the bag, if I hit the perfect circle, it gives us the perfect amount of air. And so potentially, if we have to use advanced airways on anybody, we're putting exactly the right amount of air into the person instead of overinflating their lungs and potentially having bad outcomes. So this is one of the most significant things that I've seen in the last few years. And I was going to actually ask if one of the city council members, like Councilmember Gronwald, would you want to come try?
Don't break it. Get your signature on the waiver.
I think the city attorney says we need a signature on a waiver.
So if we have this mask over, and we squeeze it, and we get the full amount of air, so I want you to take it, and you can hold the mask. Give it a try. Just a little bit less. Shoot, 450. Right. Perfect. Anywhere between 450 and 5, we're good.
This is fun.
There you go.
It's
Thank
like
you very much.
That's awesome.
Thank you for being a good sport. That's just one of the things I wanted to show that we are, at least in the fire department, we want to have the best equipment and the best training that we can have for the citizens in our community. And that truly is, it's one of the most amazing things that I've seen in my career, because a lot of times when we do have outcomes, the breathing is the biggest part, because your heart rate gets fast and you start squeezing that bag so fast, and then the air will go into the esophagus and instead of the lungs. So I did want to show you that, and I did want to say thank you again for that. It's a game changer for us, and it will be going into service next week on one of the engine companies. Moving on, turnouts. We had an unexpected good thing happened. I need to replace 51 sets of turnouts, and that is a pretty large amount of sets and a pretty large amount of money. But we also applied for a firehouse grant, and we received the firehouse grant, which was able to allow us to purchase 9 sets. And so also, one of the capital projects was to buy an additional 10 sets. So this year, we're actually probably going to get probably 17 sets completed out of that 51 that we need to replace over the next couple of years. So that's always good news to have, is we received that it was about $35,000 in the grants, which I'll show a little bit. Also, building lights at both of the 2 fire stations. There was areas that were completely dark where somebody could walk around the fire station and it wasn't lit very well. We're able to fix those. And then in the fire station 2, there was some lights that had been damaged for years that we were able to fix as well. And then we are still working on a parking lot project to expand the parking between police and fire out there. I'm going to get with Chief Picker to make sure we're on the same page of where that's going to go. And then the last thing is the PSAP consolidation, which you all have heard some about. We're really ready to go with that, but we have to wait for North Little Rock to finish their conversion before we can do anything. So that one's kind of on hold until North Little Rock finishes what they've got to do. And that concludes the the capital projects. Didn't want to go over some other highlights in training. So when I arrived, we evaluated our training, and we didn't have guidelines for what our firefighters should do, particularly the first year. So we finished the first year training program, put it, and formed a committee, and now we're going to have the year 2, Firefighter 2 book. It's in committee. It should be finished by the end of this year, and then we'll move on for the different ranks to make sure that we're having the foundational training that we need. In the end of 2023 for 2024, we published training guidance, and this training guidance is something that I put out with the chief officers. It says this is the goals that we're trying to hit, and we've completed 50% of those training goals so far. One of the biggest things that we're working on right now is what we call Mayday training, which is if a firefighter gets trapped or stuck, what does our response look like, and how do we get safely retrieve a firefighter? We've also done the ATV, some boating safety and extrication, are some of the other things. I also have 3 paramedics that are in school, or 3, they're not paramedics yet. We have 3 in school that will graduate later this month. And then they will go through an internal training for about 30 to 60 days, and then we will let them be released to be on the streets to do paramedicine. Next, training facility, we're still working on this, working with Chief Pickard on this. I need to go visit Bella Vista, Siloam Springs, and Bentonville. We're looking at some of the features that already exist. As soon as we get that, we're going to bring something to the mayor to look at, hopefully in the next 60 days or less on that. Can you go next, Tina? And then here's where we are so far this year. We've had 1,305 incidents as of this morning, 36 different fires. These are different types. I believe it's 10 structure fires and then various other fires, car fires, different things. We've had 768 medical calls, and then we've had many other types of emergencies not classified as fire, EMS, people stuck in elevators, car accidents, water emergencies, lightning strikes. Right before I came over, a citizen called and said, "Can you help us with this angry squirrel?" And so we helped with angry squirrel, but also got animal control over there. But those are the kind of things that we get calls for. So, and the squirrel did indeed appear to be angry. So, one of the things we're also looking at is the latest and greatest software. We identified a need that we have. In this consolidation, all of our data is stored with the police department, and the police department's converting to a technology called Southern Software. So we discovered that we have some data that doesn't exist for support anymore. So we're trying to figure out a way to convert this data, and we're working on that. Another thing is the current software we use is called emergency reporting. We're going to be converting next year into a software called ESO. With that conversion, what it'll allow us to do, number one, is right now the firefighters have to do 2 reports. They have to do a regular report, and then they have to do a separate report for the Arkansas Department of Health. Once we convert to this new software, they do 1 report, and it transmits to the Department of Health. So we'll be compliant with all those things. The other thing it'll allow us to do is, through this reporting software and through the Zoll software, we can track patients. So that means if we take care of somebody in Maumelle and they go through the hospital, all throughout their patient experience, we can track it. So we can know if the outcome was good. Instead of having to call the hospital and worrying about HIPAA, we'll actually have the follow-up information that we can track it. Why that's important to us is if somebody goes home or is in need, we can send the fire trucks over and just do some follow-up care and say, do you need anything? We can assist you if need be, which is a service I don't know many other fire departments are doing, but that's something we want to do here. We're also looking in this technology called Pulsera, which will go on the cell phones, and this will allow us, if we have any kind of mass casualty exercise or multi-patient exercise, we can take a picture of the patient in a band, and we can ensure that they go to the right hospital, the right training facility, and then if we have family members come up to us and say, we had a loved one here, we don't know where they went, we can pull the data up and say, your loved one went to Baptist, your loved one went to Children's, your loved one went there. So it's new technology that we're trying to use to also make information better. The Zoll Online is kind of what I just talked about as well. If we transmit anything to the hospital or we change out with MIMS, we can follow that patient experience through and see how maybe we can do better, or also the follow-up care for them. And then the last way is that fire station alerting. It's called Mock Alert. We really are sitting on it until the full conversion happens with North Little Rock, and then we'll do our part in the station alerting. Just a brief overview of the grants that we've gotten. We did in 2023, we actually were awarded a wildland firefighting grant for $28,000. It's got wildland firefighting gear that we can use, which would have come in handy a little bit earlier in the summer, but it's here. It'll be delivered later this week or early next week. As I spoke earlier, we also received the Firehouse Subs Grant Award. It was $35,234, which we were able to buy 10 new sets. We actually do have those, and they're going in service with the goal of replacing our 51 sets. We also just received word that we received a 2024 grant we put in for $47,000 for portable radios. We just got that. We're working with finance to get that moved over so we can go ahead and order that. And then we also received a 2024 FM Global Fire Prevention Grant for fire prevention materials. And so we're buying some fire prevention materials for our fire safety fair that's going to be going on a little bit later. We also have 3 other grants that are in the works right now for some fire hose and physical fitness stuff. And then also, right before we came down, was just notified, we also received a foundation allotment from Tractor Supply for $5,000. Just literally found that out before we came over, which we're going to put to good use. So we'll do some thank you letters and things from Tractor Supply. They nominated somebody, one of their employees, to pick a charity to give it to, and the person selected they wanted to help the fire department in Maumelle. So we're very thankful for that as well. And then last thing, we've been working with North Little Rock Fire to improve. I talked about Mayday a little bit. We currently don't have the staffing to do what we call RIT training, or rapid intervention training. So if we have somebody hurt, we're relying on North Little Rock to help us with that. So what we're trying to do is get with them so that we have a seamless execution if somebody were to get hurt, get stuck, or get trapped, so that they come in and we provide that, or they provide that service to us. And then also likewise, if they have something in this area, we would provide that training to them. So we're building props and things right now as we speak to be used for that training. Also looking at technology, we have on our iPads technology we just brought called Active 911, and what that does, it shows all the data that we have on different things. It can show where the fire trucks are at any given point. It also shows us where all of the electrical boxes are on all of the commercial properties. It shows us key holders. It shows us all kinds of different things. It shows us where all the storm shelters are in Maumelle. So if we have different things that we can go through a checklist and pull this stuff up, we're going to try to share it with Mayflower and Oak Grove so that if we call upon them to help us, we'll be able to see where their trucks are, and we can share the technology with them. So if we're asking for them to come into Maumelle to help us with a search, they'll have the same thing. We're all looking at the same thing. And then we just solidified a thing with Mayflower, mutual aid with Mayflower Fire Department. So if they have a need, we are going to assist them. Twice this year, Mayflower has provided us with some tanker assistance. And then one thing very, very proud of, so earlier in the year, because of some of the staffing that we've received over the last 2 years, we're able to go to what I call an 8-person minimum. So that means at the lowest we can have staffing-wise is 8 personnel on the fire trucks. And so I made it mandatory that we have at least 3 personnel on Engine 1. And although they may not sound like a big deal, we were the last ones in Pulaski County paid departments that didn't have that. Everybody else has the standard of 3 on a fire truck. We have it now on Engine 1. And so we're looking at what we can do I'm working with the mayor on our project that maybe we can possibly go and get 3 on Engine 2 as well and go up to 9. So that is one of my goals. That was one of the first things that I wanted to ensure that we got done. So we were able to hit it on Engine 1. So that's a big deal for us. I also wanted to plant some seeds. This is my chance to plant some seeds. So when we go to budget, some of the things we're working on with HR, I'm going to bring a job description for you for a new training captain position so that we can do some recruiting, training programs and such. I do have a training chief, but he gets tied up doing a lot of administrative type stuff because we just don't have the staffing. So, and I'll share more about that as we get into budget. And then we're also looking at possibly a new administrative assistant position to focus on different things, backup payroll, general administrative duties. But also, one of the things that we don't do very well, we have a wonderful communications director. Sydney does a wonderful job, but one of the things that I do want to try to do is embrace the social media part for the fire department, where we can put out good news stories on our own. We can notify the public of different things through Facebook and things like that. We don't have anybody that can do that as of yet. So that's one of the things that this administrative position, I have it a third, and a third, or 33, 33, and 33. So that person would do that thing as well. And then we're also looking into our air packs that we wear. When you send off an air pack, there is a repair cost that goes with it. And there's also some fit testing that can be done. And so one of the third part of that is also training that person to do that type of work. And also, instead of sending equipment out, we repair it in-house. And also, if another fire department wanted us to look at their stuff, we could also do that for a very small fee, and also potentially fit their firefighters as well. Because right now we are doing that when we can. So I believe that's it. Oh, there is one other thing. So we are in the running. Earlier in June, through my partnership through the military, the Army Medical Command, which is the authority over Army medicine, we were looking at partnerships on where we could do a recruiting video that celebrated citizen soldiers, the National Guard and Army Reserve. And so I begged, pleaded, did whatever I could. I got them to come to Maumelle, and so we shot some recruiting videos, also talked about paramedicine, how it works in the civilian side versus in the military side. They're putting together the videos and things, and it's between us and one other city on which one they're going to use. I'm not sure who's going to get it. Of course, I'm trying to plug us as much as we possibly can. But if we do get that honor, then we could potentially be featured in some Army recruiting for medical command. So I did want to share that as well. So if anybody has a question, be happy to answer.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Chief Buford that he hasn't already covered?
Sorry, I do run long.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I really didn't have any questions. I just want to compliment both your departments and the police departments. Anytime I ever run into any of your personnel anywhere, whether they know who I am or not, they are always very courteous, kind, decent, respectable people, you know, and I appreciate that, and that reflects very well on our city, I think. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next item of business is the Planning Commission report. Councilmember Williams?
Yes, sir. Am I home? The Planning Commission, so they had a very good conversation about the Gateway Park site plan and the site plan for the food trucks. There was a variance to substitute the material other than asphalt that's going into the park itself, and that variance was approved. The site plan for the food trucks that involved grease traps and electrical and drainage and things like that, just kind of like an RV hookup, that site plan was approved. And then there was a landscape plan that was also approved where they were going to be planting trees along Millwood and the boulevard. And the conversation was so good, having just finished up at CDI about the possibility of this Gateway Park going in and doing some really cool stuff in our community, puts us up there with all these other really cool communities who are doing great things. And it was fun to listen to that conversation. There was additional conversation about a Master Street Plan update that involved the area out by White Oak and 365, and creating collector roads in the future, and looking toward future growth. And it sounded like, as the conversation went on, that this was going to assist in any sort of traffic problems that we might have in the future, and maybe if we think we have them now, that this is going to alleviate a lot of that. And there was some talk about a subdivision on Smalling Road going in, and that was about it. It was about an hour and 27-minute meeting, and they had some good stuff to say.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Williams.
Yes, sir.
We'll move on to procedural motion. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only.
So moved.
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We have no unfinished business, or I guess the unfinished business / new business is the civil service appointment. We had two folks apply and come out at the last council meeting, but we had some absences and we weren't able to select them. So let's go through that process again. We'll basically repeat what we did last time. And so I'd ask Mr. Durham if you could step out. I can't make you. It's an open public meeting, but that'll allow Mr. Van Dyke to come down, introduce himself, and answer any questions that the council may have. The council, of course, has a copy of your submittal and has looked at that, but please come on down and introduce yourself to the council again, sir.
Good evening again. Eric Van Dyke. I've lived with my family in Maumelle for about 4.5 years now. I applied for this position because, so let me back up. I'm employed by Walmart. I work for the corporate office, but here in a Little Rock-based position. I investigate what we call organized retail crime. Basically, I chase around fraud rings for the company, both specifically in Arkansas, but nationwide. I've worked for Walmart for about 17 years now. Prior to Walmart, I worked for the city of Rogers as a police officer. I left there as a detective. Did that for about 14 years. Law enforcement for about 14 years, and prior to that I was in the Army. So I turned 18 in basic training. I was 17 when I started basic training. My entire life I've devoted either professionally or in a volunteer capacity to some sort of community service. And I'm not doing that here in central Arkansas yet. We relocated here for my wife's employment, but like I mentioned, I was fortunate enough to be able to stay on with Walmart and actually pick up a position that was really, really good for me. But what I'm lacking is the community service, and so I intend to engage in community service in one fashion or the other. I've always been interested in the civil service. The city of Rogers was under a civil service. I always had a lot of respect and admiration for that process, that system of checks and balances. I think it's a good system. Fortunately, in Rogers, just like I believe in Maumelle, it wasn't necessary a lot as far as the civil service stepping in and having to make decisions from what the chief of police did. But as far as the hiring was concerned, I think it's a system of checks and balances, and I think it worked well. And I think from what I've seen, I echo Councilman Ward, your comment that you made to the fire chief. I think I've also interacted with police officers and firefighters here, and I'm not asking for this position because I think the world needs saved by any means. I think I'm going to retire here. My son goes to school here. I'm a member of the community, and it's just a matter of giving back for me. And I think I have something to contribute as far as the civil service is concerned. I do have a good understanding of how the emergency services parts of the municipalities work, and I think I can contribute to that.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from the council? Councilmember Mosley?
I would just encourage you to remember that there's 3 here tonight that hadn't seen you before, and if there's anything else you wanted to add that you think you'd want them to consider or whatever, now's the time. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I purposely was brief, hopefully not too brief, but nothing jumps out at me. I'm obviously thrilled to answer any questions, or as far as the why, as far as what why I'm asking to be here, etc.
All right. If there's nothing further, we'll bring in Mr. Durham.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Durham, we've received a copy of your submittal to the city clerk here. If you could just
Yes,
let
sir.
the council know whatever it is you want them to know.
All right, good evening. Well, like it says, I lived at DeGray Cove, 2 DeGray Cove since 2019. And I feel my experience with Energy is in their corporate safety and with power plant skills trainer, and also with the fire service. I was with the Arch Street Volunteer Fire Department before I moved here. Helps the commission as their equitable treatment in hiring, promotion, and disciplinary actions of the police and fire departments. With Energy's corporate safety, I work with management, union officials, and on safety issues, audit findings, union contracts, accident investigations, and I originally was hired at White Bluff Station in Redfield. There I started a EMT, confined space, high-angle rescue team that are still in place. And along with Energy, when they made their last merger with Gulf States Utilities, we had 5 different safety manuals that all the power plants used. So they put a team together, and we went through those, kept the good things, took out the bad things. There was a lot of things that were hard to do with some of the plants since they've been doing them forever. The biggest thing, though, was we standardized a working manual that worked for all 5 utilities. They were really one company then in 4 different states. Then we standardized the PPE, the personal protective equipment that each plant would use for purchasing, and that went fairly well. I've been a resident of Maumelle since, like I said, 2009, not 19. I've lived in Arkansas since the fall of 1979. I was hired by AP&L when they were staffing the White Bluff coal plant. I came from West Virginia, where they had gone around all over the U.S. hiring for to staff that White Bluff plant. I've been a member of the Civil Service Board since 2012. Been the board secretary since 2015. Also during my time as commissioner, we've had conducted 2 disciplinary hearings for termination. That's not the fun part of being on the Civil Service Commission. But one of the bigger things I think we did was we reviewed with the input from the chiefs and updated the city's rules and regulations for the uniformed employees. It was way behind and needed a lot of changes. Some of them we're just bringing it up to date with the times now, but I think it's a lot better. 2022, I attended the Citizens Police Academy, and that was really very interesting. My wife had gone to the Little Rock Police Academy, Citizens Police Academy, and she wanted to go to this one. And I was impressed with the different sections of the police department made presentations about what that department did, and then how they all merged it together as one great team, I think. One of the things that impressed me was the technology that the officers have in the patrol cars. We were asked we could do a ride along if we wanted to. And I was impressed. That's really a mobile office. The technology they have now, that officer can do almost everything from that computer. And they explained, I'd heard a lot about the license plate readers, and they got that explained to me, and that was a real good piece of technology. Another one was the school resource officers. I had no idea what a school resource officer did, but I found that they work well with the schools. It's a good position. I retired from Energy in 2011, and then I contracted back with them. And part of the projects, I went back with them, working construction projects and shutdown projects, working with the the contractors and the energy employees doing safety audits and accident prevention on their projects, so that energy finally realized that accidents cost money, and that helped them bring their budgets in and come on time on the projects. That was at the, worked along with the White Bluff Station, the Lake Catherine, Lynch, and Couch steam plants, and both of the hydro dams in Hot Springs. And I've really enjoyed my time working on the Civil Service Commission. And any questions?
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from the council? If not, thank you very much, Mr. Durham. Y'all should have a ballot, or we'll pass out a ballot. Y'all have one. Please make sure that you print your name on that ballot. While they're doing that, it's always nice to have two very qualified applicants. Both of y'all, thank you for applying. If you don't get appointed this time, I'd encourage you to apply again or to look at other boards. Sometimes people do that a few times before they find their the spot. And just as I've got a button from Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, that's all right. I didn't have much. I was just going to encourage him if he had anything else to say, but I think he covered a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And just as a reminder, we need 5 votes for one person to appoint them, which shouldn't be a problem since there's 8 people here. You're right. It looks like we have a majority vote. Mr. Durham, you've been selected to serve another term on the Civil Service Commission. Thank you for your service. Mr. Van Dyke, I hope to see you here again next time. Thank you. Or at the gym, one of the two. Thank you all. We'll move on to the next order of business. The next item is the first reading of ordinance 1131, enacting supplemental provisions of the city code. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could please read that ordinance by title.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas. An ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1131. An ordinance adopting and enacting supplemental provisions of the city code for the city of Maumelle, Arkansas, providing for repeal of certain ordinances, not therein providing for the manner of amending such, and providing when such code and this ordinance shall become effective.
Thank you very much. This is just the standard codification ordinance. We've seen it before, and we'll see it again. Councilmember Gardner?
Just a point of order, I don't believe we did the procedural motion. We did the vote for the minutes.
Oh, Terry and Chad.
That was the minutes.
That was the procedural.
Oh, we did? Okay.
The minutes were Tierney and Terry.
Okay, very good, thank you. It's been a minute. It's minutes. Thank you. We're good.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Mosley?
Time's going really fast because it seemed like we just did this like 3 months ago. We only do one of these a year, right? Is that correct?
It's on an as-needed basis, Madam City Clerk?
Actually, I try to do them at least twice a year. That's what you're used to. That's why you're seeing them more frequently. The company has changed its structure, so now they do them quarterly. And this is actually just a supplement for one ordinance. We actually have 30 more that are codified, but those won't come out until September. So you are seeing it more frequently because of the structure of the company changing.
Is there any additional discussion on this ordinance? If not, it'll be on second reading at the next city council meeting. That brings us to resolution 2024-29, amending the 2024 general street and sanitation fund budgets. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2024-29, a resolution to amend the 2024 General Fund, Street Fund, and Sanitation Fund.
Thank you very much. So we've received a rate increase for the municipal property program, which is like our property insurance, and the municipal vehicle program, which is like our automobile insurance. We didn't receive the price increase until November. In years prior, we had a new finance director. We were going through the budget. It just didn't get added in at the last minute like we normally would. So we're asking for that increase. And then early in February, they did a reassessment of our property to ensure that a sufficient amount of property was covered and that the values were updated. The Municipal League had gone into a few cities that had been really damaged by a tornado, only to find out that the amount that was insured was far less than the actual buildings were worth because it was an old building that had been updated. So for example, City Hall prior to this change was insured for about $2.75 million, but that's an estimated value of 5.6, so we increased that. The community center was adjusted from 12 million to 16.1 million. I just grabbed two big line items that are easy to see. That was sort of done citywide to ensure that the property was sufficiently covered. And so I'll go and open the floor for discussion. If there is none, I'd entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2024-29. We've got a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2024-29. Is there any additional discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes. Yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Resolution 2024-29 is adopted, which brings us to resolution 2024-30 regarding surplus property. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2024-30, a resolution to amend the 2024 General Fund budget.
This resolution is fairly simple. The police department sold a few of their old vehicles that was authorized and came through. All they're asking is to now be able to spend some of that money and roll that into their capital vehicles.
To approve resolution 2024-30. Second.
We've got a motion and a second. I'll open the floor for discussion. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the resolution at all. I just want to ask a little bit about gov deals. Is this how we run through all of our old vehicles and things like that?
Yes, sir. A lot of the property that we use is through gov deals. It's an authorized, I think it's called a reverse auction site. And so that's far simpler than publishing notice and going through that process. So I'd say the overwhelming majority of surplus property that we sell goes through gov deals.
Okay.
And that's a website open to the public to bid on. So if you're ever bored.
Yeah, how does that work? Is it like a silent auction or something? You just it's done online.
eBay. It's similar to eBay.
Okay, so it's not actually there's not a physical auction site then, I guess.
It can be. We don't run it that way. We use it more like an eBay function,
okay,
where we post pictures and a description and put them up on the website.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
That'll work. We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting resolution 2024-30, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Resolution 2024-30 is adopted. That concludes new business. On mayor's comments, just a few things I wanted to point out. First of all, the Mayor's office is hosting a blood drive here at City Hall on Tuesday, August 20th. So if you're interested, you can visit the Arkansas Blood Institute's website and just sign up for a spot, or you can usually swing on down and just come in. They're like vampires, and they will take your blood. I wanted to congratulate a few graduates from CDI this year. That's the Community Development Institute that's held at UCA. The graduates we had this year were Councilmember Williams, Councilmember Gardner, the city's communication coordinator, Sydney Thompson, also graduated, as well as Kelly Wall, president of the Maumelle Area Chamber of Commerce. That's a huge turnout relative to a lot of other cities. We have other employees going through that process. I would strongly encourage any council members that are able to do it. It's a 3-year commitment. It's 1 full week at a time, so 1 full week a year. And it's a great opportunity to get in and see and learn all about community development. It's a great opportunity to meet people from around the state and around the Mid-South region. So there's folks from out of state coming too. And it varies everyone, the attendees vary from members of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission to city council members, mayors, chambers of commerce, other economic and community development minded folks. And so it's a great opportunity. Congratulations to the 4 of you who graduated from Maumelle. And we'll keep pumping that. This year's new attendees, who did we send? Deb Rausch, my chief of staff, attended, and I think Nicole Vogler from Senior Services is in year 1. We've got some other folks in year 2. So final thing I wanted to mention is the filing period for city council elections ends this week, Wednesday at noon. Whether you're on the council or thinking about running for the council, the time is ticking. Looks like we're going to have some good races this go around. And so I'd like to just encourage everyone to sort of get out there, meet the residents. I have run 4 elections in the city now, all of them opposed. Yeah, 4 elections, all of them opposed. And one of the big takeaways is always that I've spent a fair amount of time really just knocking on doors. You get a certain sampling if you're online or through email or if people are reaching out to contact you, but it's not necessarily an even distribution. It's usually those like online reviews, those that like you the most or like what the city's doing the most, or those that don't or that have single issues. So by really getting out and talking to a wide array of people, it really empowers you to do I think, a better representative to the folks that you're representing. So congratulations to those that have filed or are going to file. As I always do, I'm open to talk with anyone. I remember when I ran for city council, I was running against an incumbent, against somebody who was a former department head, and I really felt like I was at a disadvantage to know what was really going on, or just to have that resource, to have somebody that I could call and ask a question to, because you might talk to someone and they want to know the status of it. If you're the new person, you're at a disadvantage in that. So I'm always open to talk or just to be a resource to answer questions, and that goes across the board. My cell phone number is 501-697-1323. If that was quick. There's a billboard out there. It's the second number. The first number is City Hall's. The second number is my cell phone. But I'm always available. That concludes mayor's comments. We'll move on to council member comments. If there's no council member comments, whoa, slow pokes. Here we go. Council member Mosley.
You just thought we were going to get out of here quick.
I went quick.
Yeah, I had somebody ask me the other day about adaptive traffic lights, that system we had, and I was drawing a blank because I knew they weren't working, and I couldn't remember if there were some fixes coming or something, or if we had abandoned it or whatever. Can you give us an update on that?
So you may recall when that project went in, it was one of the issues for the grant is that there had to be a designated full-time city employee that was a traffic engineer. The city of Maumelle has no such full-time people or even a full-time city attorney at this point. And so, sorry, city engineer, we have a full-time city attorney. We do not have a it is a full-time position. Gosh. We do not have a full-time city engineer to do that, so the agreement at that time was that the North Little Rock City Traffic engineer would be the engineer for the entire project. That involved the lights that were in the city of Maumelle, the lights that were in the city of North Little Rock, and the lights that were in Pulaski County. North Little Rock advised us a couple years that they had no intention of continuing that agreement or managing the adaptive element of those traffic signals. And so they excused themselves from any of the administration of those traffic signals. As such, the city contracted with Inline to handle the traffic signals, both the maintenance and some of the programming. So we are using much of the physical equipment that is still installed, but not the adaptive function of those. So it's a little bit different. We used to use the sensors in the road. We now use the cameras. There's different settings and timings and different things that we can control that we didn't have access to in the prior system, but the adaptive functionality went away when North Little Rock said, when they informed us that they would no longer be managing it.
Okay, now, and adaptive referred to, in other words, it was almost, it was monitoring and trying to keep people moving, like changing lights so that a slug of people could just keep on going. So is that what the adaptive was about?
What I'm referring to is the adaptive element, and I'm not the expert on what specifically is. What went away was the elements of the traffic signals that were communicating with the different signals. So the adaptive system was supposed to allow one traffic signal to notify the next traffic signal that X number of cars was coming through when they were anticipated to hit that next traffic signal, and that sort of communication between the traffic signal went away right away. And basically, so when we turned on the adaptive function, I think North Little Rock started decommissioning some of their traffic signals almost immediately. So I think the adaptive functionality of the system as a whole went away within 2 or 3 days on the North Shore traffic signal that was there. And so they just took that one off the adaptive, then they took another one off the adaptive. Essentially, they found that the adaptive function wasn't working as they thought it should. And so they started decommissioning some of their lights right away, and then ultimately said they were just decommissioning that adaptive element. And again, when I say adaptive element, I'm referring to the communication and forecasting that was supposed to go on between the two. There's additional, so we're in a better position than we were to begin with, but not, I don't even want to say not as good as when the adaptive was functioning, because it was rife with errors to begin with. But we've got a better system than we did, but not nearly as good as what was sort of promised when the project was first launched.
Okay, all right, so we've still got something and we're still utilizing the equipment, just not the adaptive part of the equipment?
Correct.
All right. Okay, thank you. Hopefully, the person that was asking about that's watching tonight.
Or I've confused the matter more.
Well,
I'm happy to talk about it if someone specifically has questions. In fact, we rely pretty heavily on if you see timing signals that are off, or it just doesn't seem natural, it seems like there's someone waiting, like there's a long line, let us know, and we get with the folks and adjust those timing. We can and do try to catch them before complaints are put in, but never assume, if you're sitting there frustrated at a red light that you don't think should be red, or you're taking forever, the left turn is only allowing 2 cars at a time, let us know, pop it on C-Click Fix, send me a text, and I'll put it on C-Click Fix. It's how we, get the signals working. We had somebody complain to us recently, or comment to us that they thought the yellow light on a particular traffic signal wasn't as long as it should be. And we were able to go out, time it, and something in the system had been reset and extend that yellow signal to give folks more time to stop. So whenever you see that stuff, don't assume that someone knows or is, like, it was set that way specifically. It's a constant, balancing act, especially when school's in session. When it's not, we're trying to keep on top of that, but that's a whole thing to begin with.
Okay, I've got a couple more items if nobody else, anybody else have something, I'll pass. for
You've
now.
got the floor, sir.
Okay. Our Maumelle Mile project, the one where we're talking about taking Club Manor there between Odom and Millwood, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Taking that down to 2 lanes and having kind of a pedestrian / bike lane
Yes, sir.
and a median in there. I've been kind of mulling that over here the last 2 or 3 months, ever since I guess we had the blackout on the boulevard event, and we rely quite heavily on that land on Track D for parking for any event at the city. And if something's eventually built there, our current situation is, I would guess we could utilize parallel parking up and down Club Manor there for people to park for an event at the park. But if we go ahead and do this, narrowing it down to 2 lanes, we wouldn't be able to do that. And I just wanted to ask your thoughts on where would people park in the future for events that happen at the city.
So we currently use Track D, which is private property. We usually have to get permission from that owner to do that. If that fills up, then the idea is you just have neighborhood parking, not too dissimilar to, you know, if you were to go to, I don't know what the Alltel Verizon, is it Simmons, or whatever the arena is in North Little Rock, there's a few parking spots nearby. But the bulk of people hit those parking spots. We have kind of similar parking along Odom, private parking lots along Club Manor, not on Odom. So you'd anticipate people to park there, and then in just surrounding areas.
Okay. Can they park now, do parallel parking on Club Manor? I haven't seen any no parking signs.
Well, it's a lane of traffic, so there's not a parking along there. Correct.
Okay.
So you cannot currently park there, though, to your point, the city could close lanes of traffic down and allow parking there.
All right. Yeah, that's something I wanted to think about and ask everybody else to think about. There's times I guess I'm having second thoughts about the project. I mean, it's a very, very nice project, and that was something that you were wanting to do. I just suddenly beginning to wonder about the feasibility and how that would work out over time, and the ability to use the lake without a lot of congestion. And it would just, there's a lot of parking that is used along there. So anyway,
if I could chime into that as well,
Yeah.
just something related to that project,
Yeah.
and so maybe it'll be a good time to discuss that at the next city council meeting. I've given a letter of intent to MetroPlan that we intend to apply for an additional grant for that project. Y'all may recall that we essentially applied for $1.8 million grant, and we're given $1.1 million. That's not including the city's match, so we got a smaller amount. And then, as is always the case with engineering projects, the price has gone up since then. So we're at the next city council meeting, I anticipate a resolution authorizing or in support of that project to apply for the additional funding on that. That application will be due before the end of the month. So we'll have an opportunity to talk about it. It should be an agenda item at the next city council meeting.
okay. So right now, all we've really done is we have done or are in the process of an engineering study?
No, we did the planning study years ago, and then the engineering is at I believe we've just resubmitted 90% plans to RDOT. We had 30% plans completed before applying, even for the grant, but we had to put it on hold because the RDOT needs to approve each step of the way. So The engineering is at 90% at this point.
All right, thank you. One other thing we haven't talked about in a long time is the Newton Ridge annexation. And I was wondering if there's any change in that. We were kind of at a, I guess, a loggerhead, or just part of that land out there has been annexed from way back. And then we were supposed to have done another annexation, and we sent the agreement, and the folks there at Newton Ridge never did sign it. So is that still, are we still in that kind of a spot?
You're referring to the property on the east side of I-40.
I think so. I'm getting a little hazy on it, actually, so
So there was a annexation agreement that was adopted by the city council, but not, and signed by Mayor Watson back in 18, maybe 17, 2018, I want to say. That property is probably, so it's not in the city. There's no valid annexation agreement. It is a constant discussion item in-house. And it is a giant jigsaw puzzle of a lot of different things. So one, they're very hesitant to annex in directly right off the bat. Our development codes would, from their perspective, effectively completely stall and stop development. They would have to clear cut trees, and the argument is there's no way they could, because they'd have to drop that mountain down. So we're talking about out on White Oak Crossing as you cross I-40. If you've gone out there, you notice there's that big hill. They have to level that area down, which means the trees have to come down. They can't do that under city code until they have a building permit, and they've got maybe 18 months of clearing dirt before they can even begin to build a building. So they don't want to annex until that. City Attorney Krebs had found and opined that once they kind of begin some work, if there's annexation done and they had prior approvals, that could continue. We are working with RDOT to try and get access to that, because the road doesn't stop at the end of the right-of-way. The road stops at still inside the state's right-of-way, so you have to get right-of-way. You have to get RDOT to allow that connection. RDOT will not and does not want to allow a connection to that interchange that is locally focused. They want regional connectivity. So, and that has to do in part with the interchange justification report, which talked about regional connectivity. The idea being that they want that interchange to connect to 365 to provide that regional connectivity. They want some assurances that that connection will be made, that is some sort of timeline to be made, that there is work, some levels of assurances, and we're still trying to struggle with what that is, because even that property owner that owns the property there doesn't own all the way to 365. There's a railroad overpass that would need to be built. So it's a giant jigsaw puzzle of trying to get all of those pieces together to even allow them to access that interchange. We've got, I think we're in a better position now. I've met with Mr. Freeman on multiple occasions, who says that he wants to come in. It's just trying to work things. I think what they've been trying to do is land a big developer and development project that they've been working on one for quite a while, that comes and goes. It's a sort of development that everyone here would love, but that it just is not quite there. So it is something, and we've ramped up discussions on it and like action plans on how we can do that. I'll say this, we were looking at, I mentioned, and Scott will probably jump up and down and cheer for what I'm about to say. I mentioned that we would be, I think I just lost video, let me make sure We talked about the construction grant that we are going to be applying for, that we submitted a letter of intent for. We also submitted a letter of intent for some access management engineering, so an engineering grant, not a construction grant. We haven't in a long time, and certainly not since I've been mayor, applied for your STBG grants using engineering. We've engineered the projects on our own and then applied for the construction grants, and that fast tracks it. Believe it or not, that fast tracks it a little bit. Access management on White Oak Crossing being the idea that if developments start occurring, what we don't want, we have a 2-lane road in White Oak Crossing that doesn't have a center turn lane. You cannot have, or we certainly don't want to have, driveways every short period of time allowing into commercial or any sorts of developments, because what that does is it stops traffic while everyone sits behind. So we want to try and get ahead of that with some access management, which probably looks like a roundabout down closer to the interchange for all that land that is in the city, for that for folks to be able to sort of go off that main road, a roundabout that doesn't create a traffic signal or stop signs right there. In discussion as we were applying for this, the idea of possibly also applying for an engineering grant for a similar access management on the other side of the interchange came into discussions. In terms of if we applied for an STBG grant that's administered sort of by RDOT, given to us through MetroPlan's approval, then we effectively get an RDOT engineering project working on a small road extension across I-40 and an RDOT sort of approved or vetted roundabout in that area. And so I told Scott when he was like, we need this for access management, and we think it might be a good way to get that sort of break through this catch-22 that we're running into in terms of getting access to that property. And I told him that I wasn't so sure I wanted to come to the public or the city council, or even was okay with myself, the idea of saying, we're looking at spending more taxpayer money on, it would be an 80-20 grant for engineering of a roundabout in and across I-40 when the taxpayers have paid for White Oak Crossing, the Maumelle taxpayers are paying for people shopping in Maumelle, are paying for the interchange, and now we're looking at having to get the engineering of a roundabout on the city's dime, and taxpayer money didn't really sit well with me at all. But we're trying to find a way to break this sort of circular problem that we're running into in terms of getting access to White Oak Crossing from that land, which is what those property owners say they need in order to do anything with it, which they have to start doing something with it before they can annex in, lest they can't do anything with it. So I think I've answered a whole lot. We could talk about this a whole lot more. Yeah. It is something that we're at this point pushing on a almost weekly basis, trying to come up with ways to get that. Oddly enough, we're seeing more interest or chatter regarding that land across the interchange than we are the areas that are in Maumelle already. And I'm not quite sure why that is. I think it has to do with just the visibility on I-40. What is the area that is most visible? They're all visible, but there seems to be more attention paid toward the property on the other side of the interchange.
Good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Just one other thing, I'd love to have our economic development person come speak with us sometime, just to kind of give us an idea of what all's going on in that regard, and maybe she could even shed some information on that entrance area too, and what we might expect somewhere down the road and that sort of thing. So that'd be great if you could put her on the department report. That'd be wonderful. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, as all been homeowners, I'm sure we've all run into sometime in the past or even the present
a neighbor who's maybe a little more difficult to get along with than most. And I've had some residents write me, they're concerned that about their neighbors who are using code enforcement as a form of harassment for their other neighbors. And the question they're asking me is the system being abused? I mean, is this something that Mr. Grimmer might want to make a comment about? If this is not a problem at all, or if this is something that people are abusing on the system?
I can say this, we bring Scott down if you'd like to. One person's abuse is another person's use.
Right.
If someone is complaining that they're, and we see it with animal control as well. If one person is complaining that their neighbor's grass is too tall, the neighbor being complained on feels like their neighbors are always on them, they can't do anything that they want, and so from the person being reported, the system is being abused. From the neighbor who's saying that from the person filing the complaint who's saying that my neighbor's yard is not within compliance of the code, and what is the city gonna do about it? They would not say it's being abused, they would say it's being used properly, and it's being reported through the ways that the city has said, hey, if you have something to report, let us know through this system. So, Scott, I don't know if you have anything to add through that or not. We hear that you hear that on a lot of things, barking dogs, just about everything. Yes, sir.
Scott Grummer, 550 Edgewood Drive. So we do get from time to time repeat, I guess, offenders, complainers about certain specific properties. We try to identify those anytime that we do attend to any code enforcement request. We always determine whether or not if there is a violation, and if there is one, then we do get to it. But at the same time, we have had some that have used that as a form of, we would say, harassment in some way, and we tend to send those to the city attorney.
Okay.
Make sure that it's not abused.
Great. So go ahead.
We've also tried to set up C-Click Fix in such a way that the categories, if you're reporting private property issue, so you're complaining about your neighbor's grass or whatever, that those are what's called private. The complaining party can see their interaction, but it doesn't go out public. We realized very quickly, maybe in the first week C-Click Fix was up, that people were taking pictures of, I don't know, junk on someone's porch, posting it. It was going out. Those people were coming in and saying, it looks like you've come up on my property to take a picture on my porch and this, that, and the other. So for C-Click Fix, we've made those private, which means we can see it, the complainer can see it, but it doesn't go out system-wide. Some people have, they realize that they can just post in other categories that are not private, because sometimes people report things anonymously on C-Click Fix. One of the benefits and downsides of C-Click Fix is that if you report it anonymously, we don't know who you are. And that's a good thing, because now you don't have to be concerned about the city or the government knowing who's filing the complaint. On the downside, it doesn't allow us to always identify whether or not the complaining party is known as a reliable source or not, but we go out and check all of those anyways. But some of the C-Click Fix reports can get quite interesting.
I was wanting to make sure we weren't just running Mr. Grimmer's department laps.
Well, we do respond to a lot of complaints around the city, and if you do have somebody that feels like that they're being harassed in any way through code enforcement, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to check into it.
All right, great, thank you.
And next up is Councilmember Shin.
Back to the Club Manor project. Will there be any more public meetings like we had at the community center over that?
For the, there's none slated. I'm not sure if by applying for another grant, getting that grant approved, if the public hearing, it's an environmental public hearing, if that would be required again or just tacked on, but there are no plans currently to do that. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up a little bit on Mr. Tierney's comment there and the question of possible harassment on things like that. And I feel like we should require somebody to give their name, just to keep people from just being overzealous in these things or harassing, because I've been a victim of that in the past myself, mainly as a council person. I've gotten on the bad side of some people on some of the things that I've done, and so I've had to get the city attorney involved one time to get that to stop. And if it's anonymous, it's kind of hard to make it stop. So, you know, I would take that very seriously. If somebody's saying somebody's picking on me, I'd take that very seriously and make sure they're not. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any additional council member comments? City attorney comments? City clerk comments?
I do, I wasn't, but I will. I just wanted you guys to share with your constituents that they have the ability, if they do not have access to internet, to come into City Hall and we have a kiosk set up to where anything you can do on our website, you can now do it in the lobby. If it's a permit, if it's See-Click Fix, if it's a business license, you now have the ability to come in City Hall and use that.
Thank you very much. If there's nothing further, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn the city council, August the 5th, 2024.
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We're adjourned.